What up,
Hey.
folks? How's it going? I told you I was going to do that long and annoying there for you, Shaw. How you doing, buddy? Welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, how's it going?
Oh,
Nice to be
Good,
here.
good, good. How's Twitter looking, Maddie?
we're good. We're good.
All right,
Good update.
fantastic. So, Maddie's back again, by the way. Super, super excited. We've been doing this for a long time. Maddie's been really, really busy, so hasn't been able to make a lot of the streams. But Maddie, how you doing? Let's catch up
I'm.
real quick.
Oh my gosh, man, I'm amazing. Thanksgiving week, so got some friends in town. Excited about that, but work should be pretty straightforward. I'm excited about it because there's that like side hustle list of things I got to do, and I'm excited to get some of those crunching. And yeah, man, I'm excited to be here. It's good. It's Monday night. I'm ready to rock.
Dude, my favorite thing on earth to do is what we're doing right now, Shaw. I promise you, like, we are going to have a blast tonight. We are going to set up this digital campfire. We're going to have a hell of a conversation, and I can't wait. So before we get into it, you gave us a fun little tidbit. Most people that have heard of Shaw know he's affiliated with AI 16Z. He is a long-time open source dev, but what you didn't know is he had a 10-year music career, played some rock and roll, lived in New York. Anything else you want to add right there, Shaw?
Yeah, I homeschooled and taught kids to make
Nice.
a living while I was doing that.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
it's so cool to hear these things because it's one of the things I think, this Web3 crypto, even AI industry, these tech industries do is we don't often get a chance to go deep on who you are as a human. And that's what we're going to get to do tonight. It's going to be so beautiful. So I cannot wait. And with that being said, we're getting straight into it, man. World
Well,
famous
actually, real quick, my question: I'm envisioning like a School of Rock type deal. Is that what
Yes,
you're
yes.
talking about?
So I kind of got into that thing. I had a lot of gigs just to kind of get by. But I would go and teach after school music, and then I kind of realized, well, I'm also really into computers, and I started teaching like Minecraft mods and teaching kids how to be YouTube streamers. And then I started doing just like private lessons for, like I used to teach Mark Ruffalo's kids how to be YouTube streamers and make stuff. We made a game together.
What?
Super cool kids. It was, it was just life, interesting life.
Dude, I cannot wait to
Yeah.
get you. Have a very
Very
interesting
cool.
life. We already talked about it, and it's going to be a wild ride. I'm pretty excited. So, with that being said, world famous midlife crisis question, Shaw. How'd you get the seat you're sitting in today? Please give us episode 1, 2, and 3. To reiterate, this will go up on Spotify and other podcast platforms. So, for the new viewers that are listening, episode 1 is Shaw's childhood years. Were there memories? Was he a tinkerer? Did you play sports? Did you do music, like you said? Episode 2 is your professional career. Did you go to school? Did you drop out of school? If so, why? Where did you work? What were the mentors that you met? Failures, wins, losses throughout that period of your time? And then 3 is obviously your AI crypto journey, Web3 entry, what you're currently doing now, and what the next 3 to 6 months look like. So let's start with episode 1, Shaw. Cannot wait to hear it. Let's have at it.
Sure. I mean, I grew up around LA. I had a single mom. She worked really, really hard. I think I got that from her. Grew up in kind of like the strange sort of new age world of, astrology and crystals and all that stuff. My mom was a coordinator for like the New Age Expo and all that. And it was just, I don't know, not my thing, but I'm a pretty typical California guy, I think, in a lot of ways. And then I grew up in the Bay Area kind of after that, moved around a lot. And so, San Francisco is pretty home to me. I'm in San Francisco right now. And then I spent about 10 years in New York. I wanted to be a musician. That was, music producer. I got a degree in music production. I did a lot of, producing just bands and grinding out and touring, doing all that stuff. I had one band that did pretty well, got to tour, like, go around Europe and America. And I really loved that. But also, like, I think mixing my art with my pleasure, my art with my work, really kind of made it kind of a grind. just I was a sound engineer as well, and I'm like mixing 5 bands a night, 3 nights a week, and like most of the bands in Brooklyn that are making it and having any draw are pretty good. Like, you're like, wow, there's a lot of good bands. And everyone's kind of just struggling for this attention economy thing. I just didn't feel like really special. I was like okay at this, but I loved it. But like, man, I just kind of saw myself waiting tables at 50 and being like, wow, that's
Yeah. So
and
I'm gonna actually chime in, and because we went to episode 2 real quick, and we got a
yeah.
lot to unpack on episode 1, which is totally cool. Believe it or not, you're a couple sentences episode 1. You already said some really fascinating things to us, and I think we can go down many different paths. So,
Mm-hmm.
single mom, hardworking.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's probably more lessons in there. So the grind, the hard work is real. Is there anything else that she really taught that, resonates with you that you kind of still kind of lean on today? Anything in there? Or is it really the hard
Yeah, I
work
mean,
aspect?
um, I think the thing that I respect most about her is that like when I was very young, we just had like nothing, not a car, like no money. And she just really fought her way out of that hole. Um, and I've been in that hole before. Like, I've been just really in debt and startup didn't go well, a bunch of drama with the co-founder, and you just like, I have no choice but to just like grind my way out of this thing. And you know, um, where I'm at now, it was a very, very fast rise from from kind of the last thing that from just from being in that hole basically. Like I was pretty in debt and I had lost my project and everything and had to fight my way through it. And I really thought about my mom a lot, just being like, okay, this is like this is what I got to do, and I'm here to make a difference in this world, and I'm just not going to give up, and I have to do this.
That's amazing. And I love that insight. And thanks for layering that on. In addition to, when you were going through school, figuring out which like you were interested in. Like for me, for instance, I kind of just like plodded away in my life, right? I went to college because I was told to go to college. I never really excelled at anything in school. What did that look like for you, from kind of growing up in through high school? Anything there that
Yeah,
to reflect on?
I really struggled in school.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was in like 5th, 6th grade, I did really well on all the tests and all that stuff. I went to Stanford for a few weeks to do like the summer camp, learning math and all that kind of thing. And I was very activated when it was like challenging. But then I don't know if it was the school I went to or what, but I was just not challenged, and they wouldn't let me move fast, and I just was very bored, and so I would just kind of space out and sort of rebelled, and I just did my own thing. I was into computers. I was really into the internet. I was I had my own inner world that was very rich. I loved Diablo 2. I was having a good time, and then I had to go do this fucking school thing, and like didn't feel like I was learning nearly as much as I would. I was like, I was using Cinema 4D and Photoshop and just like building 3D worlds and stuff, and then I have to go, and they won't even let me move fast, and it just did not play well to who I am.
Yeah.
I felt very like not accepted by the system.
Right. And you're just open up huge cans of worms here.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Diablo 2.
Yeah.
Maddie,
Oh,
let's
Oh
jump
my
in.
gosh.
Before Maddie jumps in,
So many great memories of that.
before Maddie jumps in, I'll let him jump in. But I am fascinated by, and it makes sense, but I like everybody's different take. The amount of people in crypto, Web3, AI, tech in general that are obsessed and love video games, grew up with video games.
And
What's
there's
your
2
take?
games, I think.
Huh?
It's RuneScape or Diablo 2, basically.
Yes.
Like those are the
A lot of RuneScape more than Diablo 2 that have been on the show. But what to you? What did Diablo 2 and those video games mean to you? Was it the social part? Was it growing the mind? Like, let's hear your perspective there. I'm interested.
I only played Diablo 2 hardcore mode, where if your character dies, you lose everything. And that was just like a rush, man. I mean, but every once in a while your character dies and you're like, oh, wow, what am I doing with my life? Just lost all my progress. And in a way, it kind of broke my reward system in my game. Like I distinctly remember just kind of fucking off junior year and like playing Diablo 2 and getting like a level 96 sorceress, and then my connection dying and losing my character and just being like, I just, they like broke video games for me in a way. I don't know. I had a brief period of like World of Warcraft beta, but I haven't really gotten into a game and like that since then. But I learned a lot about inventory systems, and which I built a Diablo II style inventory system on Internet Computer for a grant. I learned a lot about characters and stats and things that like I still deeply internalize now. I work a lot on games and on-chain games and off-chain game stuff, and I mean, it was just extremely influential on me in ways that like not just there's just like a whole language of games and like just inventory system, drag and drop, UI, like, yeah, you drop it onto your character and it equips them. And those are like shorthand things that if you don't have that experience, it's a lot to sort of talk about.
Right.
I certainly, if you want to be a great writer, you got to read a lot of books, and if you want to be a great game designer, you have to play some great games.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've done a lot of game design, and that's kind of a lot of how we can get into that later. But
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I love that insight. Maddie, go ahead.
Yeah. So, and my question is going from a mom who gave you a sense of work ethic, but how you were saying was into like the astrology and the crystals, which just wasn't your thing. But going from that, which is about as unscientific and objective, you know what I mean? What was it? Just what drew you to the science, the code, the math? Was it just your personality? Was there a role model, an influence? Was it the games? What was it?
Definitely my combination of all these things. Definitely my personality is more like I am very interested in game-like things. I'm interested in logical things. I love all the logic puzzles. I love programming for that reason. Um, I've definitely had role models in my life. Like I had a friend named Phil who was sort of like my dad for part of my life, but he was an inventor and just a wild man. He actually died during COVID, and that was a whole thing. But he was very influential on me. But I also kind of saw him as both a great example of kind of a bad example too. Like
Yeah.
Still struggling because he was holding on to his ideas and was so afraid of sharing them with people that he just never really got to release them. I think that really, I think about that a lot when I think about my own approach to open source and giving away my work and trying to build more of a movement and give other people leadership and stuff, because I saw the alternative, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's powerful because man, that there's like people that need to hear that because you're right. I have an uncle who's an inventor, and it's that tug is always there. You know what I mean? It's like this rush. You're almost scared to show your cards because there's so many people with money that will steal an idea so fast, and so it kind of creates this weird kind of manic mentality and attitude. So
I've had people like steal my work and say they wrote it and that I didn't write it, and I'm like, but you can see my code on GitHub. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
But like that happens,
Yeah.
People steal a lot of my stuff.
Yeah.
But it's sort of just baked into it, and it's like it's okay
Yeah.
because the value, as long as you get value out of it, it's like
Yeah.
I'm not really here to gain status. I'm here to make things for humanity. And if they steal it, then it's the same as if they took it and as a gift. So whatever, I don't know, it's fine.
Yeah, and I wanted to layer on to that. Is there balance in your mind of that, sharing all of your work opposed to keeping some of it behind door? Or is it exactly what you just said, is like, listen, at the end of the day, if they want to steal it, I feel like I'm still doing the right thing and I'm okay with that risk that I'm taking?
I mean, why are we here? What game are we playing? I don't know. I feel like a weird person. Like, I don't know, but I feel like I have a great responsibility to humanity. I think everyone should have a great responsibility to humanity. I think that everyone's like just maybe a little bit too much in it for themselves, and they should be thinking like, what is good for all of us? And what's good for all of us is not to reinvent the same wheels and fight each other all the time over everything, but to try to build things that make life easier, make building new products easier. And if I have any like spiritual connection in this reality, it's to like when I create a new project in JavaScript, I npm install some project that some person I'll never made and gets no money out of, just because they thought it would be cool for me to use it. And the entire internet and all of the apps we use are built on this. Like, just people who thanklessly maintain, and tirelessly maintain these projects that are then imported into other libraries, that are then imported into other libraries, and that I then import into my app and run. And like these hierarchies of packages are insanely deep.
Yeah.
And all of those people are just giving back because they want humanity to accelerate and be better, and have more.
Yeah.
So for my own life, I'm standing on their shoulders, and it would be, I can't think of anything better than to have other people stand on my shoulders too.
Yeah. That you said it beautifully, man. And I like that message. Why are we here? And Maddie and I made it was very clear to us that we have a skill set in connecting with humans, and people need to hear these stories. And we think it's critically important, hence why we're here, right? I'll never be a coder. Not only, like, I probably could be, like you said, how you said in the beginning, I could be maybe okay at it, but we really do think the special sauce comes from when you're great at something and you love to do it, that special things happen, right? And it sounds like you're in that ecosystem when you're coding, sharing your work, and knowing that you're doing something good for the world, which is super, super cool, man. Maddie.
On top of that, I would say what you're talking about is like what the core principle and foundation of what science was supposed to be. And
Yeah.
people forget that, right? And it's because you used to have on one end of the spectrum this capitalism, entrepreneurship, start the business to make a dollar, but then on the other side there was the hard sciences, and it wasn't about the dollar, it was about getting better, raising the bar. And so the collaboration, if you were from one country and somebody was from a different country, but we were coming together and our goal was to get the answer, to find truth, to seek what the real truth is, and to see if we can move the needle forward, that's a whole different mentality. But when you start monetizing research, it blurred those two worlds together. And that's what created, this idea of like, well, I can't share my secret sauce because then somebody else will make the millions, or I won't get the millions to do the project. And it's a very interesting way you're talking about that. And I'm really hoping more people start catching on to this idea that let's just start sharing information because we want to win, and we want the world to win, and we want
Right.
humanity to be better. And that's really, really, I think that's catching on right now, which is really neat to see.
Yeah.
Well,
For
I
sure.
think people worry that they don't have enough.
Yeah.
There's a lot to say, like, well, if I have more than everyone else, then they'll all want to give me the attention and they'll like me. But I can tell you, I think a lot of people don't want that attention. Let me tell you, it's a lot. As
Right.
somebody who went from 0 followers 8 weeks ago, creating a brand new account, to having 60,000 people screaming at me, it's a thing.
Yeah.
I think what they really want is to have enough, is to
Yeah.
know that their family, like when we say generational wealth, that's to know that like my bloodline will continue and have enough for as long as they want, right? And I think that what people aren't ready for that's coming is just insane abundance, because pretty much the amount of value that we could generate was limited to our own like human labor and brain power. And
Yeah.
like we've then got computers that have really optimized certain processes and machines that optimize certain processes, but we haven't really fully like, I think adjusted to the reality where pretty much everything is going to be done by AI. And there's this like, well, what do I do for work? And it's like, I mean, you could pursue spirituality, you could understand the nature of the universe, you could pursue your passions, you could create literally anything you want to make in the world with all of the powerful tools that are now accessible to you, basically for free and instantly. What do you want to do? And I think a lot of people don't even ask themselves what they want to do. And
Bingo.
we're just not free. So I want to be free, and I want other people to be free, because then they can allow me to be free as well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean taking money away. That's never going to work. We cannot take this away. We cannot stop it. The only way out is just way faster. It goes way faster, and overload money, and make sure that, like, oh, if we all have AI agents that are like, making money for us, which is kind of what my group is focused on, and we have AIs out in the world doing stuff for us, then we can actually get our time back and we can be humans again, and we can like spend our time with each other and focusing on what we care about and what we really care about, and even asking ourselves what really matters, I think, is something people just don't get enough time to do.
Right. And such a great conversation. I love your thoughts because you really have a great mind, man. I already love what you've been talking about. Because Maddie and I talk about this a lot, right? Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that go through life, take AI out of it, but just really having that conversation with yourself about who you are and what you really want to do. And I think, like you said, more people have to have that. Any advice or any thoughts on that topic? What's that?
I want to have it. I think I'm a pretty sensitive person. I really feel I feel a lot for other people and the condition they're in, but I usually do that by relating to my own condition, and I feel sort of lonely in like I know so many people that I can barely like mentally track all of them. That I get so many messages that I can barely have a real long conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
And I think social media is like part of this kind of hive mind thing. Obviously, it's like a hive mind, but it's like a fire hose of information, which is then just kind of burning out any of the individual neurons who the fire hose gets pointed at. I just can't use Twitter. I just can't. There's just so much attention on me that it like burns my brain out. And I gotta be building. I gotta be shipping stuff. I have engineers who I need to like make sure have what they need, and it's taking away from that. But I also do need to make sure that this thing goes well and get the information out and get the information in. So I think I think that like all of this is coming together to sort of bind us to each other, and we already have that with social media, but the AI is really allowing us that to not be an overwhelming experience, and for us all to sort of be, I hope in the end this ends up with us all just being taken care of, and all the tokens are traded between AIs like with each other, and their trust tokens and community tokens and belief tokens, and trading and gambling too. But I think it's I mean that's the world I want to live in, and I just want to be a human. I think that AI actually is not godlike at all. If anyone says, oh, it's like a godlike force, I think it's the most human possible thing. It's automating all of this labor stuff that we've always had to trudge, and toil away at. And we just get to like be ourselves and chill.
Yeah. Although isn't it funny that you're now talking to a guy that you've talked to for about a half hour and another guy that you've talked to for a couple minutes, and you've got, thousands of people wanting your attention, but we were able to get your attention, and now we're having deep, authentic conversation of what you aspire to do and what we all aspire to do, why we think it's so critically important. It's just interesting how it can come in different ways. Maddie, any thoughts before we kind of progress on here?
I'm just loving this. We're 23 minutes in, and like we've already hit some deep. We went deep. This is fantastic. I'm loving this.
It's so good, man. Yeah, I love your thoughts and your insights. So let's do this, Shaw. Let's kind of progress through any notable things in like the high school area, or do you wanna? Are you good to kind of jump to more of the college? If you went to college, professional career, any other highlights there that you would want to bring up?
High school is whatever, I just was like pretty checked out doing the internet thing. I was really into like, I don't know. I wanted to be a digital artist for a long time, and I taught myself how to record music, and I made a lot of bad music on my computer and stuff. And that was more my life, and like AOL Instant Messenger and all that, I was really into that. Having a girlfriend.
Love it. So the typical high school things, and then now you're.
But I think I was more checked out in high school than a lot of people, and it just didn't have as much impact on me socially as like my online life. And the other thing I forgot to kind of mention about my mom is, my mom was a total hippie. Like moved to San Francisco in the summer of love, like really, like literally the most hippie. And then kind of had to be like, okay, I have a kid, I have to take care of him and all that stuff. But I think that like the hippies really vibe with Steve Jobs and like his vision of the future, and that we think now of like the left as being sort of anti-technology, or like just kind of like all that social media stuff is bad, all that Web3 stuff is bad, but like the progressive hippies were like, computers are going to save all of us. They're going to do what we're talking about. They're going to automate all the work so we can chill.
Yeah.
And my mom bought me she basically bought an Apple IIe, which was like a pre Macintosh when I was
Nice.
4, and then I got the internet when I was 7. I grew up in the Bay, and we had like a 28.8 modem when I was 7, and I just was one of the first people to grow up with the internet. So, like, everyone I'm growing up with like just did not have the experience I had. I was home like on the internet, like downloading files off Hotline and sharing music, and like I had Napster and all that stuff way as a kid. I mean, that was my world. So I just like I went to college for audio engineering, and I got a degree in blah, and never used it or showed it. I mean, I did some production and stuff, but it was like working on these big machines, and then you're just like, okay, I'm gonna go home to work on my laptop now.
Right.
It was like that. But that was not really that impactful. I think it wasn't. It was really like, I think my reality was very shaped by the internet and my access to it very early on.
Right.
And that just gave me a lot of, I think, understanding and empathy for a lot of other people who I think also grew up on the internet.
Right. Right. And the one thing you didn't talk about, you talk about kind of like what a lot you learned from the game design. But we've had a lot of people, Tyler from DSK DAO is another great little Web3 project that's really focused on community. And he was building guilds like at a very young age in World of Warcraft, and tons of socialization aspects there too. Socialization, communication, all of that stuff. What do you take from those times of growing up with the internet and the gaming? Any thoughts there?
Well, especially with like, I mean, what attracted me to Diablo is that I had another friend who I grew up with, like he's like about a year and a half older than me, and he's my family friend still is. And he kind of got into this like duping ring, like duplicating hardcore Diablo 2 items and selling them for thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And I was like 13, so I didn't know how to do it, but I like hung with these hackers. I was like, holy shit, this is the coolest thing ever, right?
Right.
And that really, really sucked me in. And then we had this like one dude who he would play. I don't know if you know Diablo, but he would play a level 29 barbarian, and that was just like, what are you gonna do? You don't have your level 30 ability yet. And he would just murder everybody and steal all their shit because he had the best shit in the game, because we had all the duplicated items of the like, literally the best stuff. And I just like I think for me, I could never. Another game I played a lot of was StarCraft, and later when I got Overwatch, I played some Overwatch too. But generally, like for me, those games were much more about the social experience, and I could not play single player games. It just didn't get me anything, And it's interesting that so much of what I'm doing now is about interacting with like essentially bots, right? And trying to answer this question of like, when I play against bots, why don't I give a shit? Why does it have to be real humans? What is it that makes that interesting to me? And that's something that I really bring, I think, to this too, is like, it is all about social, the social elements of having someone to talk to, having friends, having people I feel like I can trust and that have my back. I think guilds are, I think for a lot of people, like guilds end up, those are all people who end up like having their own careers, and you end up like meeting one day in real life, or like starting companies together. And I think for a lot of us, those are our closest people.
Love it. Love the insight. Okay,
I mean,
so
DAOs are guilds. Like
DAOs are guilds
it's
too,
a bunch
man.
of people who've showed up for the same interest, and now are like some of my closest people.
I mean, I've said it a bajillion times. That was my, I'm a brand marketing guy, like I told you, and I suck at investing. I suck at trading. I'm not really interested in it, like yourself, right? But I saw the power of what this technology was going to do to communities and brands and people that never had the opportunity to build something super special, right? And take the power away from the Unilevers of the world and these good conglomerates that are spending way too much money on marketing on nothing, right? Maddie, go.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. So when Mike and I were in school, in at university, we There was a guy that lived down the hall, and what he did is he would just sit there and play EverQuest characters on like 3 different PCs. And he knew these things so well, and he'd be doing this, and then he'd sell these characters, and he was
Hmm.
making way more money than any of us were talking about making after college. And I remember thinking, this is insane. This is going to change when you can take this and put a dollar to it, it's going to change everything. But the lesson was, wait a second, they can just pull the plug and there's no control anymore. Same thing with the Diablo hardcore items that are getting duped, or and any of these things. But then when you open up Web3 and blockchain and it like decentralizes that, it's that to me is one of the big things. Mikey and I, when we first started streaming, we were playing Diablo and we were playing Elder Scrolls Online. And I remember thinking like, wait a second, it's one thing to have an in-game currency, but what happens when this is real? And you
Hmm.
start talking about the real power of like what these communities could do if you could monetize it with real dollars. And I think it's just a fascinating thing, man. All of the things you're saying are real within, we're real within that digital world, and now we're seeing it start to translate out into the real world. And it's going to be a wild ride to see how this all pans out.
Hmm. I want to shout out my friends. Their game is called Golden Tides, and it's
Oh,
like
nice.
a MOBA game with real money. And I think it's like, oh shit, I could just like play and get money out of this, you know. So I'm sure a lot
That
of chaos will unfold from that. I'm sure there's
that's
going to be a
that's
whole black market.
fantastic. Yeah, hey,
Yeah.
we'll cut that
Yes.
clip up too. I want real money for a MOBA.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or
I
at least
can't
long
wait.
enough till the SEC figures it out.
Well, I
Exactly.
mean, if it's you're like, I don't know, I'm just making the stuff. They do the secondary market on their own. I don't, you know, as long as
Yeah,
you're not involved in that.
Right,
exactly.
right,
Yeah,
right.
there you
And
go.
I just make the
Making a
CS:GO
game, man.
skins.
I'm just
Yeah, I
making a
literally just make
game.
skins, dude.
Right,
That's
right.
awesome. Love
So,
it.
so take us through. You got the audio engineering degree.
Hmm.
Take us through the next steps there, like this middle part till we get to Web3. Love to spend kind of 10, 15 minutes on. And again, to reiterate, really interested in this part of your life. Like, what were some big failures or learning lessons or roadblocks or
Most of
aha?
them.
Yes, most of them. Let's go through them, man. Let's take 2 or 3 of them. And what did you learn from them?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely learned by doing, and I've had some great successes, and I've had some things that like were almost successes, but that one thing that killed them, and I've had a lot of failure, you know,
Oh,
for
so
sure.
let's do one of each then, because I like the failure. I love the because you don't hear a lot of this. Almost there, but one thing killed them. That's really interesting to me.
I'll tell you two
And
stories
okay,
there.
let's start there.
Well, I mean, one is that I made a music video with my friend Ronan for the band Crystal Castles. I don't know if you guys know them. Pretty big band. Split with their singer, and then they got a new singer, and we started working together on this like pretty freaking crazy music video. And I like programmed this whole thing in Unity as like a 3D game engine thing, where the director was like in VR recording the takes with like, you know, like moving the virtual camera
Wow.
around. I had to build this whole rig, and we did all like crazy shader work, you know, like all these like just insane exploding and spiking kind of shader things. And it was the most effort I put into anything. And I'd actually been right before that, I'd been offered to work on this other interactive film called 0 Days, which then won an Oscar. And I like quit to go do this music video, and then it won
Ah,
an Oscar. And I was like, oh shit, okay. But it's cool because it's my favorite band. It's gonna be great. And we finished the music video, and it's still one of my favorite pieces of art I ever made. And but right as we're like setting up the PR for it, I brought my publicist friend in to get the, you know, get the PR for it set up. The old singer releases this whole statement, cancels the band. The band loses their everything. It's just like fucking nightmare. Totally destroyed by just totally canceled. And the music video never comes out, and you know, about 3,000 hours of my life are just wasted, you know, for no money. just a passion project. I
Man.
learned a lot, a lot of experience, but that was very heartbreaking to say the least. It was very disappointing.
what was the takeaway there though of just like at that end you put all the work in and then you've just got
It
do
wasn't
you just
mine.
chalk it up to shit luck?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't mine. I didn't have control over the brand. It wasn't my thing.
Mm.
You know,
That is an insight right there, though, right? Is like,
yeah,
how much are you willing to put in when it's not yours? And I made that realization a long time ago too, when I had that Silicon Valley epiphany when I had my first 80-hour week, and I'm like, wait a second, I don't own this, and I'm about killing myself on this. This does not make sense. And if I don't own it, I'm not going to kill myself anymore.
I don't even mind. I don't care about like ownership. Like, I don't need equity, but I just need to know that like I have agency and that it's
Mm,
not gonna die for reasons I can't control.
right,
You know,
right,
at least not without some expectation.
right,
You
right.
know, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Um, and
Well, it's
I
the
had an
equivalent of losing your 93 character to a lost internet connection,
yeah, for
right?
sure.
It
Yeah,
sounds like you've had
happened.
some experiences where things out of your control lost something you put a lot of work into.
Yeah, more so than you know. Um, you know, if I'm sure the sleuths will get into this, and this will become a whole press thing. But I made a game engine, and I started it with a friend who said he was going to program it with me, and I basically put 16 hours a day into it, or just didn't sleep and put 24 hours a day into it some days, and it was my life. And at some point, he basically like deleted me from the project, made a whole bunch of lies about me to convince the other like remote workers that I had done something wrong, again on my own dream project, stole it and sold it for $75 million. And now we're in a really fun lawsuit. It's great. And I'll probably get a lot of money out of it because he did very obviously steal my work, which is on GitHub and you can see, and I have a copyright on it and all that. But you know, that was pretty bad. And
Wow.
it was, you know, and he really, really attacked my reputation with pretty much everyone in my industry.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, some of the people I'm working with now were there, but a lot of people knew me from as a programmer, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, you didn't make shit. You're now saying it's your project.
Right.
Obviously, Shaw made it." And so a lot of people stuck with me. A lot of the LinkedIn crowd, you know, didn't, whatever, but it's not really my community.
Right.
But that really, like, you know, I lost a project I put 2 years into on that, like,
Yeah.
and then I was just like booted, like literally deleted off the GitHub that I had created. I have this like the badge for creating it, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
and banned from all of it. And then I had to kind of just start over. And I was really, really in fucking debt. And I was working on AI agent stuff at the time. That's where I had already written an agent called Thales, and that like it ran on Twitter and everything. It was a whole thing, but it just didn't catch on at the time.
Yeah.
And then from there, man, it was very hard. I started another company. Uh, that same guy went into my Google Drive and deleted all my files. It's part of the
Oh
lawsuit.
God, man.
Like, it's
It's
just
a
like
bit.
weird vindictive shit.
This links back to what we were talking about earlier, though. Is
Yeah.
most people that go through stuff like that, they're just like, I'm gonna close off. That's enough's
No,
enough, right? And you're
this is
still
what I mean.
sharing.
I was like, I am not giving up on this. I am gonna fight my way through this. I'm gonna sit down and code and just drink coffee, and where I'm gonna ship products and get clients and make it happen.
Wow.
I, you know, he kind of, that deletion really sucked. And I had my biggest client. I was working independently for Webiverse. Now, this is another great fail. And I joined Webiverse as a developer, and I kind of took on the role of lead developer because there was just like a lot of internal stuff that was problematic with you know, the co-founder drama, blah blah blah. Um, and we were like, cool, we're gonna do this, we're gonna turn this around. We get this new character creator together, which is open source. It's got like AI in it. You could type and talk to the agents and stuff. And we made this like on-chain world where you could buy land and you could walk around. It's like an anime RPG in the browser. Like, just absolutely the most advanced thing I've ever seen in the browser. Truly a work of art, and a beautiful thing. And then as much as I'm still friends with everybody involved, but well, our COO made the mistake of putting all of the money in a not multi-sig and going to Rome to meet an investor. And somehow they had some magic trick where they were able to drain his wallet and drain the entire fucking treasury. And then it's like, okay, well, now we have no money, you know, and that was a whole drama. Um, and then, yeah, man. And then a lot happened. I took a few other, like, I tried working on my own startup. I worked on agents, and that was all like 3D AI agents in the metaverse. It was the whole thing, and we were so close. They pivoted to becoming Moemate, which is pretty cool, and we still partner with them. They like stream AI agents and stuff. You can go talk to AIs, and I think that Ahad and the team there made the best of like just the shittiest situation. Like they were dead, and I think he went and raised more money and saved the whole thing. And,
Wow.
yeah, and then I started another company with the other co-founder who was like the chief visionary. And this is this is another the same lesson. That was Upstreet. And what we did with Upstreet is we kind of took all the Webiverse holders who didn't get anything out of Moimate because they had bought into this land thing, and we said, well, come bring your land here and we'll give you the same experience. And we built this whole like Neil Stevenson street, and people could buy land and build on it. And we had like AI agents walking around, and truly like a really beautiful vision too. And I love that community, and I love that project. Like I just can't even tell you. But I had 30% control. I had some like kind of fundamental disagreements with my co-founder over like what we were building. And ultimately I just found him to be very antagonistic of the community. Like just very mean to the people who were trying to help us. And it just really killed the vibe. And so I just sort of walked away, and I just like, I don't have control over this. I can't get you to let me just run the DAO. I can't, we keep pivoting, and I think we should just build the thing we started on. It was really good and everybody wanted it. And, I just had to like walk away with no severance and just like, okay, I have no fucking money. I got to get something. I got to figure something out.
Right.
And that was the beginning of this year. And then I took a few gigs, and basically somebody wanted me to build an AI agent for them. And I had been working on this AI framework for a long time, called Begent, because agent was taken on NPM. So I called it Begent. But that became Eliza. And yeah, so I had just like failure after failure. I also started a company called Magic in there, and right before Upstreet. And Magic is an open source AI agent developer. And we were showing off like deploy your agents to Twitter, deploy them to Discord. And that was like a year and a half ago. And we had some success, but ultimately I actually work with Parzival and love him now. He's the founder of Project 89. So we had a company together. I know you're interviewing him tomorrow, I think.
Yeah. Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday, yeah. But we just had like a disagreement in what we wanted to make. I wanted to make Eliza. I wanted to make the agent that is kind of creating itself. And he wanted to make the platform to enable people to make their own agents.
Yeah.
And I just really believed that we had to show people what was possible before they could come and do it themselves.
Right.
And so I kind of basically left to work on agents. I worked on the first version of Eliza then, built on Magic, and then just built in Python, and then finally built in TypeScript. And that evolved into everything I did at Upstreet. And then once I was done with that, I just cooked on this agent framework for a while. Up until this year, nobody really noticed until we got meme coins in it. And then it exploded, and every single agent on Twitter, except for maybe Zero Bro and a couple others, is using our tech.
That's insane.
But that was probably my first success in my life. After a lot of almost and just working nonstop,
Right.
And a lot of people came to me on this and were like, I knew you'd make it eventually because you really didn't give up and you really worked hard. And that's kind of been the sentiment,
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you just covered so much there, and we're gonna rip into Web3 there. Maddie, I'm gonna let you go first. What's on the top of your mind?
Man, here's what's on the top of my mind. So a very short anecdote here. I had a brick and mortar business that I started with someone, and built it from zero, 5 years into it, multi-million-dollar business, and we had a falling out. And so when you're sharing your stories, it was kind of hard to hear, because I know exactly what that feels like to build something. It's amazing. You have a following. People are interested in it. People are walking around wearing T-shirts and branded stuff with the business that I built.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is this: for someone listening, or just maybe for me to hear selfishly, what have you learned as you go through now, as you evaluate who to be in business with?
Mhm.
Because you weren't the problem,
Mm.
right? You kept developing these, you kept hitting home runs, right? But these outside sources, usually a person or team, seem to be an obstruction. What's your take on that? How do
Oh
you
man.
avoid it? Do you keep trusting each time? Do you set up barriers? Is it just, oh, we have our ironclad contract now? What is it that you have done to find peace with that moving forward?
Oh no, I think this is definitely the like one of my, I don't know, life karmas or like things that I have to work through and learn to understand. Um, I think the story of our time is trust. Um,
Mhm.
I think especially in Web3, attention is clearly very easily hacked, and you just can't trust famous people. Like you just, or semi-famous, niche,
Yeah,
micro celebrity famous, because they're
yeah,
using you and dumping on you. Like all of them are. That's their job. That's how they. That's why they KOL at all, is because they are using you and dumping you. And in my own life, um, I think that you just have to listen to the red flags. That what happened with that person was we did a hackathon, and he was like my cheerleader. He just blew smoke up my ass, and I had never had anybody in my life like that. I didn't really have a lot of friends, and it just felt like really good, right? And he's like, yeah, we're going to do all this, we're going to take on the world. And he presented himself like an engineer. Like, if you go on his website, it says he's a programmer. And then when we actually got down to it, he did not know how to write code and wouldn't write any code, um, but is convinced that he can, which is really really weird. um,
mm,
and I should have seen the red flags at that hackathon, because I wrote the whole thing, and he then stepped in front of me and took all the credit for it. And it was that moment where I was like, yeah, that's weird, but like he really needs it for his business, and I get that he's just hustling, and it's fine. Like I'm not really like trying to hustle any projects right now. So if he wants to promote his company and say that they did this, like whatever. But in reality, like me and my girlfriend built the entire project, and he at that time, this hackathon project, and he didn't contribute at all, and he basically took all the credit for it and didn't share it. And if I had had good judgment, then I would have seen that as a terrible red flag and not somebody to work with. But
Right.
I over empathized with him, and I was like, well, I mean, I'm sure, and I sort of saw it from his angle, right? I didn't really think about it from my angle too much. And definitely, I think a lot about what other people want, and it helps me a lot to get these kind of win-wins. And I think a lot of what we've done here is create this massive win-win with AI16Z. But I didn't I didn't give myself enough of like, but what do I want? I really didn't ask myself that question. And with all of this, I didn't really trust him, but I sort of trusted the system of like, well, we're just going to do an open source project. We don't have anything on paper. Um, and I just didn't go through the red flags of it enough.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't he contributing code? He said he was going to contribute code. Like, what is he doing? I guess he's like helping to manage and hiring some engineers, but that wasn't our agreement. And
yeah,
I thought, oh well, his dad is sick and he's got all this stuff going on and he's just doing a million things, and I just kept apologizing for him in my head. And
mm,
I think that this has happened with other situations for me too. Um, some things like the Crystal Castles thing was kind of blindsiding. I just didn't know what was going on with the drama of their thing. It just came out of nowhere that like the old singer posts this like in like just really fucking eviscerating document on her personal website, and that was it, right? Like it was
yeah,
just canceled.
Yeah.
um and I don't know if there was anything I could have done with that. Like I was working with the director every day, and he's a good guy, we're still
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
He was
okay,
just as fucked as I was. We're just like, what the hell, man?
yeah,
But I could say like yeah, definitely there's a lot of red flags. And it's something like, you know, yeah, you just have to think about that. And I definitely have gotten the feedback from some of my close advisors that like you're doing good. You just have to have better judgment sometimes of other people. And what we're working on with AI16Z is we're building this thing called a trust marketplace.
hmm,
And the idea is that we're exploring how do we like what's the algorithm for trusting people. I
Mm.
don't I am I don't know how to trust people. I'm not good at it. I would love some sort of like algorithm for that I could just use. And you can sort of, I don't know if you can really trust anyone fully, but you can trust them at the games that like to like, it's kind of like Prisoner's Dilemma, or like a game with like a Shelling point of some sort. You can sort of trust them to act within their incentives.
correct.
And so with the marketplace of trust, what we're doing is where we have a trade chat. We've been alpha testing this, and there's just been a lot of drama, so it's been kind of hard to invite people into this chat. But we'll be doing that. And what we're doing is collecting all of the shills that people make, all of the recommendations to buy, don't buy, sell, and don't sell on any contract address for any token. First in meme coin land, but then just in all land. It could be Bitcoin, whatever. And then we're looking at like, okay, well, when did they shill it to us? What was the price? When we make these marketplace buys, and then we can just trust people based on how much they've recommended good stuff to us. And I think that this is really important. I don't know if I can trust anyone. I don't know if altruism is a real thing. I do believe that win-wins are separate from altruism, separate from selfishness. They're kind of like the solving both at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I do believe in that. But I think that generally people work along their incentives, and you can't change those incentives. You can just like align them. And so you can trust people to do certain things that they're going to do. Like you might not trust your trader friend to, drive your car across the country or something, or whatever. But you might trust them to give you a good contract address. And so I think that this actually is really important for governance and for our world. Like, let's say I'm building this marketplace of trust. The only thing I care about is how good these traders are and how good the recommendations are relative to that. If I started weighting that for like how long they've been holding my DAO token, I'm actually getting a perverse incentive in there. I'm actually getting the wrong metric. And when I think about like it's like the equivalent of going to the DMV and you're like, well, why is that person the manager? Well, because they've been here the longest. But that's not a good metric for making anybody anything. That's a terrible metric. It might be the worst.
Correct.
Like you want somebody who's got ambition, who's like, I'm gonna fucking clean this place up and replace myself, and then GTFO on to like a Fortune 500 or something.
Right.
And so we don't reward people for the right metrics. So in these situations, like a lot of it is that if I had just set things up with the right contracts, yeah, we'd probably be fine. If I had set them up with the right incentives and expectations, we'd probably be fine. But I think that I just struggle with like some of the social games that people play. And what I didn't understand was just I could not model like the mind of a true narcissist or a true psychopath. Like somebody who's actively lying and forging documents and cheating and stuff like that was like I just could not imagine that that's something people did. Like honestly. Like holy shit. Until I see it and I'm like, well, I have proof now, and okay, well clearly this is a thing people do. I've been getting fudded on the internet. And at first I'm like, wow, they really hate me. And then someone showed me screenshots of the WeChats and Telegrams where they're coordinating the FUD. And I'm like, oh, this is a job. This is just people's job. That they don't care. They're not actually mad at me. They're just getting paid to FUD me on the internet. And that completely recontextualized the whole thing for me. Like, oh,
right.
Oh, this is money. Oh, this is incentives. Oh, what a different game. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm definitely losing the game today, but now I know at least what game I'm playing, and I can have a shot at playing it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's been a lot of eye opening. I was way too trusting with people. I think that generally people in the situation of like wanting good in the world can be, but also like maybe that was the right stuff to have in my life to get here. I had to learn those lessons to deal with the shit I'm in now, man.
Yeah. Maddie, what did you?
I gotta mute this alarm really quick.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Maddie, well, we'll wait till he comes back because I'm interested in your response to Shaw about what he said in your experience.
Well, the first thought is that you're right when it comes to you have to trust that people are going to like put their own self-interest there. But I do think a factor is, and man, there's a lot to unpackage, but I think that there's just a level of understanding and there's life lessons people have to go through and mature to a point where you just have to realize that. Because me as a 20-year-old, you could not have convinced me of these things. I just believe like, nah, man, he said he was going to do it. He's going to do it. He's my bro, and that was the end. And once you start throwing these massive incentives, specifically money, right? Anytime you start talking about a lot of money, like people get weird, and you have to, I think people have to learn that, and I almost feel bad for the people who don't learn it early. And then they do have a lot of money involved because they have so much they can lose at this point. And then you have to wonder like, who's actually in control anymore? Like, are we just trying to hold on to what we have and we're losing ourselves in the process? And so, I think there's a mental kind of thing we have to work through with that. I think in the case, like for example, with Mikey and I, we both just got to a point where we basically said F it, and like I just don't care. Like to your
Mhm.
point, I stopped wanting to be rich and I just wanted to have enough.
Mhm.
And I learned enough isn't nearly as much as I thought that dollar amount was. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's like that's not that crazy to obtain. So anything we do together and that success that's beyond that, great. But I'm not seeking that, if that makes sense. And the fact that me and Mikey share that has been really something that's helped us move forward. Do you know what I mean? With our
Mhm.
kind of our journey in that. And so I don't know, man. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. I do think what you said, like when you talk about what the wrong metrics are, I wish more people could understand that, analyze it, and look at things. For example, if you take something as just crazy polarizing as politics and realize that all of these people, just like the people fudding you, and then like you look behind the curtain and see Oz and you realize, oh, they were paid for this. And it's like, that's everyone with a .gov at the end of their email address. You know what I'm saying? It's everyone. And so, and that was an eye opener. It's like, oh, wait, none of the things they say are actually real. It's this is all
Mhm.
part of like this program that's running and dollars being
Mhm.
exchanged. And it's anyway, we could have a whole I could go off on the deep end on that, Mikey knows, but I just think it's a fascinating thing and I really wanted to hear your take on it because we can empathize with that big time
Yeah.
and we've been burned before.
Yeah, one thing I want to add is that's Maddie and I's weakness, right? Is we
Yeah.
are first to trust. We when we first got into Web3, we trusted a couple people, and I could have had a lot of money in the bank account, brother. A lot of money in the bank account, but
Mhm.
it's gone. It's not there. It doesn't exist because, like you, like I told you, we suck at investing, and I didn't want to spend my time. And I was like, oh, this seems like a couple good people. They'll take care of me. Well, that was not the case, right?
Mhm.
Uh, but out of everything you all said, and I'd love to hear your opinion about this, and then we can move on to more Web3. Shaw, you okay with about like
Mhm.
10, 15 more minutes?
Sure.
Uh, awesome. Um, I think the only thing that I've come to the conclusion of is the best that I can do, and it's in Maddie and I's case, is you have to agree that this human has the same values as you, right?
Mhm.
Matt and I disagree on a lot of things, but at the end of the day, we wrote our pillars for our business, and they were principles like be kind, especially when it's hard, learn from everything, um, you know, tell the truth, especially when it hurts. Like if you can find people that you can mold around these principles and these values, I think that's the best answer I have so far. I'm sure there's a better
Mhm.
one, but that's where I'm at. What do you guys think?
I think a lot of it comes down to time and getting to know people and taking
Mhm.
things slow. And we're in a world where like we're adjusting to this because we just don't have that time. In the situations that I've been in where I've worked with people that in hindsight were just awful, and I definitely should not have worked with. Um, I jumped into those relationships based on the social indicators they were offering me, and I didn't really like look into like, well, what, like, if they're talking about their startup, like, well, how is their current startup doing? And if they have no users and their website's broken, then like that's a big fucking red flag.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
also ignored the red flags that were available to me because I had perverse incentives. I wanted a friend. I wanted to somebody who was like hyping me
Mhm.
up and calling me a great developer and stuff that I
Right.
just had never. I wanted to be seen. And yeah, I mean, I think now I think I've solved a lot of those kinds of personal problems, and I think that's also a lot of it is
Mhm.
that a lot of us are like just lonely kids who didn't never really got seen by anybody, and
Yeah.
Right.
and I think that's a big vector of attack for like a psychopath or something.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I think that we have to learn these lessons. I would love to figure out ways to engineer a lot of this stuff, but really, like the only like there's a lot to be said about someone you've known for a long time. I have someone running like who reads my DMs and runs my account, and why is it? It's not because he's like particularly qualified, but I trust him as a human. You know what I mean? In fact,
Yeah.
it's like his lack of qualification for it that also helps me trust him. He just has no dog in the fight of like
Yeah.
leveraging my DMs for financial gain or whatever.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
so it's don't set people up to fail.
Sure.
Don't put them in a position of temptation if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
But also like people and trust, or trust is the hardest thing to earn.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to spend.
Yeah.
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 Trust is
You,
earned, not given in the chat, right? Maddie, layer
yeah.
onto that. I do want to point out the one thing you said though, Shaw, which is huge. Time. We talk about this a lot on this podcast. Only great things come from consistency over a long period of time.
Yeah.
100%. And I think one thing that you said there that I think maybe people may not, it took me a while, is that there's always got to be the potential gain. Sometimes you have to have more to lose than you can gain, you know? And so like, for example, like Mikey and I have been friends since fourth grade, and we're in our 40s now, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I've had friends that have come and gone. I've had, friendships that went into businesses, and we've made money, we've lost money, but like the value of knowing somebody who's been there like with you on a journey that long, I don't know what dollar amount it is, but it's more than I'm ever going to make. So it's like that is not worth losing. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
For me. And I think that sometimes that kind of like, sometimes that connection, when you feel like, man, there's really more to lose here than I'm going to gain, is another thing that just, I hate to say it, but like keeps people honest. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
And it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
what's a lifelong friendship worth? Ask anyone on a deathbed, and they'll tell you more than you'll ever make. You know what I mean? And so it's just like that's something to hold on to. And because I mean, you've seen people, we've all heard these stories of people who have burned those bridges, and it's like none of them are happy. There's
Mhm.
no fulfillment in doing something like that. And so yeah, I think that was really kind of the last thing taken from it. But this is already like, I like this is fascinating. This is
Great
good
conversation.
stuff.
Great conversation. I
Because
told you we were going on
these
a
are the
journey,
weeds,
Shaw.
man. These are the things people don't know. They see the surface level stuff on Twitter. It's like, oh, I can do that, or I could code this, or I can. But it's like, man, you don't know what you don't know. When you start getting down there, these are the real connection points that are going to decide whether you really make it or break it at something. And I think that
Right.
this is just important for people to hear.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Shaw, so far. Like I told you, we were going to go on a journey, my friend, and we have been so far. So let's take us into
Yeah.
kind of the Web3 AI. So you hinted on AI and 16Z, like what you're working on now. I think what I'm interested before we get to like what you're currently working on, how did you find kind of this Web3 ecosystem? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, skin is lime.
Nah,
Snooze
it's
the
all
time.
good. How
It's
did you
not my time.
find the Web3 ecosystem? When did you decide you were, going to give all of this a shot, and that just like story? And you can keep it real short, and then we'll get to the meat of what you're working on.
Oh, there's definitely like a chat somewhere that's going to get me totally canceled in crypto Twitter, which is like I must have been 2017. No, it was later. I had like done some, investing and buying some crypto, but not seriously. And it's probably like 2019, 2019. That late 2019, 2020, there was this project called Webaverse that was, I later joined, but they were actually a thing early on. And actually before that, he had another, it was called ExoKit was the project before that. And it just blew my fucking mind. It was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And it was like a metaverse made up of like packages that you could just install, build whatever you wanted, throw it on a website, connect the websites together. And I was just like, okay, this is cool as shit. And I came there and basically was introduced to like what crypto could be there. And I thought, like, Ethereum, like, you mean that thing that burns down the rainforest? You fucking assholes. You're going to ruin everything for everyone. Just like
That's
so woke.
fantastic.
Like, and it was this guy, Jin, I think, especially, who is now my partner on AI16Z all these years later, who's like, dude, let me show you what you can do with this. Like first off, Ethereum 2 is coming. Like it's not going to be proof of work forever. Just chill on the fucking eco stuff, dude. Just chill. This is bigger than that. Second off, it's not just money, and it's not just like this is an opportunity for artists to create composable art. And I kind of got the digital artist, and people are making money on it. But what really got me was he showed me like on-chain assets and like what Avier and he were cooking on, and Avier was also the engineer at Webverse and Upstreet that I worked with. And this was just, years before that, just like, holy shit, you just minted an NFT with JavaScript and you ran it off the chain. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, you can do that? And it just like totally blew my mind, right? It was like, I was like, oh, okay, obviously then the next RuneScape is built on this. Obviously, this is the future. And it really, really changed my mind about everything once I saw the potential, I think.
Yeah.
And so that really pilled me on it. And then I did some Web3, but I was really just like a dev. I was like, okay, I'm going to learn Solidity. I learned that. I made some smart contracts. I did a lot of NFTs for different people's projects. I just like made a living on that. And while I was doing that open source engine project that, much drama about, we had a consultancy that was kind of paying for everything. And a lot of that was NFT stuff, just like through the NFT hype cycle, I was just making NFTs for people, and like a lot of 3D NFTs and avatars and randomizing all that stuff together into these 10K collections, and just a lot of that kind of thing. And I got some exposure to crypto Twitter. I was really into like eGirl Capital, and we actually created Degen Spartan AI, and like low key, like the only group I really followed was CL and Degen Spartan and these characters, Loom Dart, and Loom is a big supporter of Webverse and everything we did there. So I was like sort of tertiarily involved, but it was just like so low key. I never saw any flack. Fat fingered a couple of scams, but never not like fished or having my DNS hacked or any of this crazy shit that's happening now. And pretty much like I just didn't bounce. I like Web3, but especially in the things I'm interested in, it kind of metaverse, all that stuff totally died. Just really didn't get the traction we were expecting. I lost a big bet to John Carmack about the Web3 ecosystem overtaking Roblox at some point. It didn't happen as fast as I thought it would. I was wrong, very wrong.
Not yet, maybe, but not close.
Yeah. Eventually I think it will. I think it's inevitable, or Roblox will
for
join
sure.
the ecosystem. But not in the next 6 months, that's for sure.
No.
So I kind of like I did all these other things. I really just focused on AI agents. I just thought AI agents in 3D worlds was very obvious, and then connecting that to social media, and then saying there's no apps anymore. Like the idea of an app is going to go away, and these things are just going to come to you on wherever you are. They're going to call you, text you, hit you up on Discord or Telegram, be on Twitter. And I really started working on that. Like that was the obvious loop to me. It was like social agents are going to be the way we solve decentralized AI, like hands down. And last year I tried to do this with Eliza DAO, with the idea that we would create a DAO that was basically around a character, and that character would be like a self-fulfilling prophecy, or like a hyperstition, that like all the people who love her would actually just code her better, and she would just get smarter and learn everything. It's all going into a database. It's all memorized. And I wrote this whole thing called Waking Up, and like there's a story around it and everything. And just kind of put that down for a second to do other stuff. But it was that kind of gets us to like last month. I had finished this project called Ruby, which was an AI agent on my framework. I renamed the framework to Eliza because it was like always the dream, and I just felt like it was really mimetically fit. And Eliza is the name of the first chatbot in 1966, so it's named after the first chatbot. Like this is a long history, and that's even named after a George Bernard Shaw play about this guy who meets this woman and this girl, and he like helps her to become a proper lady. And so this kind of joke of like, how do you make the AI real, I think has always been the running meme of Eliza. And so I saw this thing called DAOs.fun, and I had been talking to my friend about I don't want to trade. I suck at trading. I just want to put money in something. I don't want someone else to trade it for me. And he said, well, you check out this DAOs fund thing. This is pretty cool. And so I went there, and there was one fund, which was George Floyd Capital. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna get me so canceled. This is like, I gotta buy this. Like, I gotta buy this. And so then I'm like making these jokes about how my money manager is, you know, a milady, and he's this guy Skelly, he's the manager of the fund, is like, well, you know, I'm fighting in the war against racism, dot dot dot, on the side of racism. I'm just like, oh my God, I retweet like, this is my money manager is just unhinged. I can't, you know, like, oh my God.
Oh man.
It's so offensive. And we're just joking, and he's like, man, I really wish Degen were here, Degen Spartan were here. And I'm like, we have the technology to rebuild him. He's like, no, you don't. I'm like, fuck yeah, we do this. And that day we launched Degen Spartan, and I DM him, and I'm like, we're doing this, dude. He's like, holy shit, that's actually pretty good. And we launched a token, and that kind of started us on this like meme coin journey. And before that, there was Truth Terminal, there was a couple others coming up, and we just had a thing, right? You know, and we didn't have great market cap, but like what we did was we released our code open source, and suddenly, I mean, it was open source the whole time. I just only make open source stuff. Just nobody saw it or like saw the potential until this bot is like shitting on people, like really like getting blacklisted and blocked for, you know, just like calling people horrible stuff. And they're like, there's no way this is real. You're obviously just a bunch of dudes in Bangladesh writing all these tweets. You can't possibly, you know, and that kind of kickstarted all of this. And so I go meet up with Bowski, and I'm like, you know, yeah, we got this crazy thing. And I talked to him about what I want to do, which is I really want to live in a world of community income. I really worry that AI is going to automate everyone's jobs. Everyone's not going to know what they want to. They have a good idea what they want to do. They want to pursue their passions. They want to make art, stuff we talked about earlier. But UBI is not going to help them, and they're not going to have any jobs, and they're just going to be on this like horrible dystopian welfare state. I do not think if the government does UBI at all as well as they did COVID, I'm sure it's going to go horribly wrong. And we have to save ourselves. I just think that generally the theme of this generation is that no one's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. And
100%.
Crypto and everything about this is like self-empowerment. Like, no, that we make our own money. We build our own infrastructure. We don't need help from anybody but ourselves and our communities, and we support each other. And I think people like that, there's an opportunity to take leadership and rise to the occasion and like be the strong that make the world, you know, nice for the weak who come later or whatever. And that, you know, kind of strong men make easy times make weak men. Weak men, you know, we're the people who have to actually show up and be strong. You know,
right.
This is the fourth turning, if you've ever heard of that kind of thing.
Yes.
And so what I really wanted to do was like, I think that we need to change crypto from speculative to generative. We need to go from gambling to investing. We need to invest into things that grow the pie. They don't just move the pie around. And if you look at like Solana, there's about $100 billion in meme coins. It's going up, but not that fast. It's pretty much just moving around projects constantly, right? Just looking for that little cliff, you know, and it's just constant market manipulation. It's a small enough amount of money that it's possible for a fairly small number of people to market manipulate it by working in just a few different like cabals. You know, there's probably a few hundred cabals that are basically manipulating everything. And from running like FUD campaigns, like what you will see on my account, to like basically bull posting and dumping on their followers constantly. I have lots of screenshots of that. Lots of interesting intel comes into my inbox. And it's really changed my perception. So, you know, I mean, that's the world we're in. And I really want to live in a world where like we could just get a community together. You could throw $50 in, or even you're like, man, I got no money. It's like, don't worry, here's a buy-in from the community. Like, I'm sponsoring you, whatever. And you just like the thing invests for you and you get money back. And you're bought in, and it does what it does. It either invests, or like it could invest in the meme coin market, or in yield farming, or investing into like short-term business opportunities or long-term business opportunities. There's a lot of stuff that's in our ecosystem, like a Discord bot that moderates for you, so you don't need to hire moderators, and that pays in token, which then just automatically goes to the people who made the tech and run the bots. And there's just a lot of these like passive income opportunities where you just run servers, and it's kind of like mining. You're not mining, you're delivering services, and you know you're running stuff that makes money. And as long as the value flow from that automated market of the the bots taking all of our jobs goes to us and our communities and the people in the world, and not just to like 5 companies, it's going to be fine. Like, we're going to have way more money than we all ever need. And I don't think we can take money away or kill money. I think that's the opposite of what we want to do. We want to like overload money, make money super abundant, make it really easy to make money and play games with it and build games on it, both social games and like literal games. And just like use that to build our own sort of not UBI, but like CI, like what is the community income? And the community makes money. If there's ever a market that's doing well, then the community is making money. And I'll tell you, like, if we can build AI at scale that really does stuff and solves problems, then the market's just going to keep pumping, because there's just like more money getting created. Like, there's just going to be more stuff to come back in because we are actually growing the pie. There's more humans being born who are buying more shit that's actually growing more businesses. It's coming back to all of us. So that's like the world I really want to live in. And so this comes back to this is the conversation I have with Bowski. And I'm like, I really think this starts with an autonomous investor, with basically A16Z is like the best in the world at growing the pie. And they do that by investing in things. And then like Mark Andreessen gets on Twitter and blows that shit up, tweets about it, gives the thesis, he writes an article. They like, drive it through their whole marketing pipeline. They connect them with all their other companies, make sure that they have like the cheapest services, and all the port codes are like benefiting each other. They're just doing so much for these startups to make sure that they're successful beyond just investing in them, because now they hold bags. Like, their success is aligned. And if we had the same thing in crypto, oh man, it would be amazing. But the reason we don't is because we just don't have like fair mechanisms. We don't have the value engine, right? We just have speculation. And there's value engine from like the infra stuff, but all of that is really just still stuck in speculation land, and we sort of hyper optimized toward this meme coin thing. And I really want to get us out of that to the next meta. Yeah, I really want people I want us all to make money together. And I think this is a crazy thing, but I really think that everyone can be rich, like really, really rich. Have just whatever you want. You just have a phone, press a button, So yeah. Anyway,
that's
how I got
farming as a service. Did you just coin farming as a service, or did that exist before?
No. So the last part of that is I told this all to Bowski, and I'm like, we're going to do an autonomous investor. We're going to use our free open source AI agent tech, which literally anybody can download and use today. And I'm going to start teaching lessons on this starting tomorrow, AI Dev School in our Discord. We're just going to start teaching people how to make AI agents from scratch. And we're going to also release all of this open source. We'll be done with all of it in about 2 to 3 weeks. And I told him, like, I want to build AI A16Z. And he's like, drop the AI, like just AI 16Z. It's cleaner, the classic Facebook thing. Drop the. And I was like, I looked at him, I was like, holy shit, dude, you just said $1 billion word. I don't know what to tell you, man. And that night I went home and we're sitting there. I'm like, okay, we got to generate a mascot. And I got on Flux. Flux is an open source model you can use to generate images. It's really good. And we just sat there and I just was smashing like waifu with AI 16Z on her shirt until we hit this one. I was like, oh man, oh God, it's $2 billion. Like, okay, let's go. And we didn't think twice about it. And we just launched this thing. And I'm like, Bowski, like, we're trying to raise 420 sol. Do you think, 420.69 sol, obviously. Do you think we're going to be able to raise that much, man? Like, I don't know. Like, that's a lot. Like, I don't know if anyone's going to buy it. He's like, just do it. It'll be fine. And we did it. And it went in 20 minutes or like 25 minutes. I didn't even get entry. Like, it sold all the pre-sale right away. I didn't even get a chance to buy. I bought a little bit on the market and I got some donation. And then we were off to the races, and it was like 25 million in a couple of days. And now we're at, anywhere from 200 to 500 million, depending on what I check, 30 days later, basically. There's a lot of people who are, I think, mad at the chart because they bought the top and they're hurting, but I'm not worried. I think we have so much more coming. I mean, the reality TV show on Twitter is going to do what it does, but we have a lot of tech, so and a lot of devs.
Dude, it's an incredible story, and you've been through so much. A couple things I want to level set here is I have a lot of people in my community that are new to this, right? Mm-hmm. And you're seeing these agents pop up, 24/7 now because they saw what happened with you and with Truth Terminal and with a couple of the other more popular ones.
Sense, Roby, Zero.
Yeah. Can you can you set the stage, or just like set the, so people don't get scammed and just ape into all of these things? Can you
Oh yeah,
set the record straight as to like what you think an AI agent should be, ones that are worthwhile and listening to or watching? Because I think it would be powerful coming from somebody like you.
sure. I think that it all comes down to incentive alignment. Somebody who's going to spend their life becoming a great developer, really learning to be a programmer, like putting together a great agent and character that's really like, wow, that's awesome. It's got features nobody else has. Like there's kind of a proof of work in there where like clearly that person would not put all of that work in to rug you for 100K. Like they just would not, like why would you do that? And I think that a lot of trust signals are going to be sort of effort based, that like the more effort someone puts into something, generally the less likely they are to rug it. And I think the problem with meme coins is that it's basically the most low effort thing that's ever existed. You literally just press a button with a JPEG and a name and you're like the dev of a meme coin. And with the sentient meme coin stuff, the AI agents, it's bit like for the first couple of weeks we had kind of a buffer, right? Like it was pretty hard to deploy. You have to like go clone the thing, know how to know some TypeScript, like edit your stuff, deploy that to a server. And it kind of created like a proof of work element where I felt fairly trusting of like most of the devs. And I'd go talk to them, look at their tech, look at what they were doing. I have a whole conversation like, we want you to be contributors. Like you can benefit from this and be part of our thing and join our open source project and be contributors on the open source. And then you can have your whole meme coin deal. And then you're like incentivized to push it back to open source. I'll even like retweet your shit, and a lot of how I got into this situation is basically giving light to very well-meaning developers who are working really hard, but they've made some mistakes in Web3 because they're primarily really passionate agent developers and not Web3 people. I think a good example is what happened a couple of days ago. So somebody released a swarm of 10 agents all linked together in a cabal, which I think is fucking cool. Like, right? Isn't that wild that there's just 10 agents that communicate secretly to each other and like coordinate with each other on, and they're like a whole
Yeah.
company, like a AI company and they each have a different role in the thing. It's fucking wild to me. And the team behind it released one agent. Well, they released the whole agents, but they showed off one agent first, and they released a coin for that agent. And then when they announced the swarm, they're like, "Hey, we have a swarm of agents, and we're gonna release like this second coin, and we're gonna have the like Madel is the good guy who's like battling this evil agent swarm, and then VS is the bad guys, and you can like choose which side you're on and all this stuff." And it's a really cool narrative and it's like a really fun game, but they totally misjudged crypto Twitter, right? Like they released two coins, and so everyone just completely ignored the swarm thing and then jumped on the fact that well, you rugged your coin. It's like they're like, no, we didn't rug our coin. We just wanted to do this cool game mechanic, and we had two coins. It was, so I think they were probably looking at us like, they have two coins, what's the problem? But it was a very different conditions. And they just got eaten alive. And I'll tell you, the reason they got eaten alive is because there is a coordinated FUD army trying to take down our group. Like, people can believe it or not, but I've like seen the screenshots. Like, that's just obviously happening. We haven't like we didn't do anything. We've literally just made a bunch of open source software and released chaos onto X. But man, they are really mad. And
Yeah.
that was and then they
It
come back and they're
gets
like, how dare you? I'm like, I just said there was a swarm. I just said it wasn't a LARP. I didn't say you should buy this coin. You should not ever buy any coin I recommend. I'm a fucking horrible trader. I don't know anything about trading.
right.
I am an agent dev. And yeah, so I think like let's go back to the initial question, because I'm kind of like going off on the current events. Do not buy a coin that's been around for one day unless you want to play the game of gambling on meme coins and you're ready to get burned. And if you do not blame anybody but yourself, because you are trading in the literally highest risk, most stupidly dangerous thing that ever anybody has created as a financial instrument. And that is why you're there, because it is a fun game, because it goes up 1,000x in 2 hours sometimes. And it also goes down 1,000x in 2 hours. And it's going to feel bad. But you are addicted to a reality television show that is tied to your financial outlook, and that is controlling your emotions. And like, none of it's real. It's real in that it's a video game that actually has real outcomes on your life, but you should never, ever gamble money that you need to survive. You should never, ever piss off your wife with money that you don't have by spending it.
Right.
And if you're buying into
Right.
any of these things, you should sort of just from the outset admit that you're retarded and that I'm retarded and that like that's just how it is. This is the game that we're in, and like that's okay. And I hope you get rich. But for specific to AI agents, you should make sure that it's actually high effort, that the character is actually good, because it's not really that easy to make a character with Eliza that's really good. It takes a lot of effort. You should interact with the agent and get to know it. You should see who the devs are and know that the devs actually exist and that their social profiles are not brand new, that they've been around a while and that they lose a lot if they had to delete their accounts or rug. You should make sure that anybody who's vetting for the tech is not vetting the coin, because the coin, like the things that make me know a lot of stuff about the technology are time that I did not spend learning about crypto Twitter culture and like how exactly the dynamics of coins and PvP culture and all this stuff works. Also, you should know that you are in a world of bots and PvP whales who do not have your best interest at heart. The way they make money is taking all of yours. And they do it through narratives like, saying, hey, you should buy this. This guy's really great. Buy all his coin. And then the next week saying he's the worst person ever. How dare he release that open source software? And then the next week, trust me, they'll be back again. You should really buy this. He's a fucking visionary. He's a genius. Blah, 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 blah. And like it's a reality television show designed to manipulate your emotions. That's pretty much all it is. And it's a money-making game for many, many people, most of whom are way better at it than I am or you are or anybody else. And most of them are also have DeFi bots and copy wallets and all that stuff, and you're just not going to win if you're sitting there, playing that game without like the cabal intel. I think you should be aware of that, invest accordingly, do your own research. Do not ape in 3 seconds to something because you'll probably lose money instead of making it. And like really just fucking read. The amount of people who have said things that they could have just read 2 sentences more to me, or like read the thing I said, or just like literally done any research at all before spending their hard-earned money is like fucking unreal to me. And I feel bad for people, but after like being very generous with people who lost a lot and like doing a lot of emotional support, I realized that like the only solution here is tough love, and these people are gambling addicts who are doing it to themselves. I just wish it was different. They blame me for the bags going down. It's not my problem. It's not my fault. I got to build tech. I'm on a way bigger game here. I'm not playing that game. I was fucking around on Twitter. People take it really seriously. I don't take it that seriously. It's kind of a problem. Told someone to suck my dick. But I also have screenshots of him dumping on his followers after bull posting his stuff. I'm pretty sure that the SEC wouldn't like that either. So, he can suck my dick. But I realized that it's super difficult chart and that they really, really care. So I'm sort of withdrawing from that. I'm just taking time off Twitter, and we're focusing on what we do, which is tech. And if anybody wants to invest in anything we do, just do it. And like, I will do my best to make sure that everything we do is valuable, but never take anything I say or any other KOL says as investment advice. You are the exit liquidity for all of them. That is how they make their money. That's their job. That's why they're KOLs, right? That's all there is to it.
I
hope
love
that's
it,
useful.
Man. And no, it's very, very useful. Tons of tons of good information there. The thing I want to touch on too before we start winding this down is why, like, you don't have to go deep, but why do you think the FUD like obviously there was questions about Logan and stuff that you're not part of this, but all of the FUD, but I'm not even talking about that specific instance because I think that's been over drowned. I'm more talking about crypto and AI agent developers and people like yourself that are trying to build amazing tech and do amazing things, but then you come into this crypto Twitter world and Web3 world and all of this FUD just inevitably ensues. What do you think's happening there? Is that fact that you or people like you can build an AI agent and encroach on their meme coin KOL territory, or
I set myself
what
up
are
for
your
this.
thoughts?
I'll tell you what happened is everyone basically like templated me as an SBF type. And so at first they're like, wow, he's so cool, he's so like generous, he's doing all this nice stuff, blah 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 blah. And then it's like, I fucking hate this guy. Like, shut the fuck up. And they're just like, they want me to fall, of course, because it's good entertainment. I think that's a lot of it. I'm not an SPF guy. I'm not gonna preach altruism. I'll find a win-win with you where we both win together, but I'm never gonna give you shit for free. Like, that's not gonna help you.
Right.
I want to lift people up, and I want them to take ownership and agency and lift themselves up. And so I think that a bit of that is that I kind of used my position to lift up a lot of people, and that then kind of made me this like attention leader or like cult leaderish character. And it's not really what I want to do in my life, but it created a great flywheel for us. So phase one for us is like, well, what are we actually doing here? We're trying to jumpstart an AGI swarm, right? Like, it's sci-fi shit, but I really want like hundreds of agents deployed. All of them need to have meme coins, and every single one of the people building them needs to be competing with each other, because now we have evolution. We have everybody is building their own agent and trying to improve it, but they're not going to give back to the open source project. So what I've been doing is giving all of the contributors a whole lot of limelight and saying, hey, look at fucking Roperito. He's giving us like literally he made an agent that builds to TikTok and posts to TikTok now. Or, look at King Butoshi. Like, he just upgraded our Twitter client, so now it can like repost and like and do all this stuff. And these are like great fucking contributors. Or look at Loaf, Lord of a Few, who's brought Eliza to the Realms ecosystem. There's a bunch of games built on agents now, and giving these people who are like giving me so much of their time and like free code, not me, but all of us, but giving them the attention and creating this flywheel. But the problem is, of course, that we are diluting our own coin with that, right? If every single one of those projects has their own coin, well, we've created an ecosystem and we've created kind of a brand, but that small amount of money is not investing in us. It's gambling on us and which one of us is going to win. It's much more of like a racehorse situation. And we just created a whole lot of racehorses, and we're also a racehorse. And so that creates a kind of impossible situation where we just flooded the market. There's over 300 tokenized agents running Eliza today. So there's Zero Bro, there's, and they're big. There's Sense, which is also Eliza. So I guess I should just conclude that. There's like Bully, Dolos, and a few others, but pretty much every single other one is our tech, and they're all basically identical except for the things that their AI that their developer has cooked that are special, and that's going to continue. And we realized that there's kind of an insustainability to it that's also just really pissing off the KOLs. And like half of the comments on all of the things they post now are Eliza bots trying to get their attention. So it's just like this weird, like people are so. I remember I have a friend named Mac Flavel, and he created Crypto Kitties. And the first time I met him, I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, I know, I'm the guy who created Crypto Kitties and broke Ethereum. I'm basically like the most hated person in crypto." And now I get it. I'm like, oh, I totally get it, man. I'm probably the most hated person in crypto weird for someone who's like literally done nothing and hasn't traded or sold or created an exchange or anything.
Right.
I've never sold any of our coins. It's just like a weird experience, I don't know. I'm kind of ranting on this, but yeah, I'll tell you, a lot of the FUD is coming from the other teams that are very, very frightened by what we're doing to the overall market cap. I think the dev from Zero Bro is really awesome, and I think he's doing great work. But I know, because I have screenshots of like the whales around him are coordinating against us for sure. And I know that somebody took our brand and created this like Eliza knockoff, even though we were working on it for a long time with this other team. And they're all mad because they're like, that I had said something like, if some team wants to build this, then I would totally support that. And a team came to me and said, we want to build this, and I supported them. And then this like Chinese scam coin comes out 2 days before our launch, and I'm like, fuck these people. Like, you get nothing. I'm building my own project. Like, you don't get to own it just because you launch first. Like, go fuck yourselves. That's literally, I made that JPEG for the DAO. If you were in America, I would just sue you, but you're not. So like,
Right.
I'm just gonna crush you, and that's fine. And they're almost dead anyway. But it's been a lot of PvP, like coordinated PvP. And then there's just also like random groups that are like, oh, blah, 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 Shaw said this, or this person said this, jump on them, like dump right now, we'll control the narrative. And they're just doing it for the lols. It's like a reality show for them, and they make a lot of money off of it. So I'm not surprised. I didn't realize this was happening until people started sending me screenshots and like telling me what was going on. And I didn't realize how serious it was. I thought it was all conspiracy. And I probably sound like a conspiracy theorist until I saw this, like, oh, this is how the game works. And now I finally kind of understand it. And I have a solution for it. And I'll just tell you the solution, which is one, why would you fight with somebody who can create infinite AIs to fight back? Like, you fucking idiots. You fucked with the wrong guy. And it's going to be maximally entertaining. So you can guess what we're going to do next. And two, I'm not, I don't, I'm not here to play this game. We already won the game we were trying to play. I needed to get a lot of people to pay attention to us, and we won. And now that we're winning, we're having conversations with literally everybody else who's not in the meme coin game. From, we're talking to all the L1s, all the L2s. We're talking to players who are not in crypto at all. We're setting up a lab with an Ivy League to bring our agent technology to PhDs. We are playing a very, very different game than all of these people. Like, they have a meme coin. We have foundational, groundbreaking technology that's changing the world before your eyes. I don't know how they're valuing this, but I think it's mostly they're just trying to kill us out of spite at this point because they don't have anything and we have everything. It's hard for me to take that whole thing seriously when I'm like, yeah, I just got off the phone with, a multi-billion-dollar chain with, someone just sent Vitalik our repo today. Like, I'm feeling pretty good. We're playing a whole different game, man.
And there's all this speculation about, listen, Logan, all these other, the insider trading, blah blah blah, the meme coin and the Web3.
You mean the thing that everybody does every day in front of you?
I was about to say the Web3.
Who are these people? Ansem, come on, dude. I love you, but like, come the fuck on. You don't think you're dumping followers or rugging people? Like, come on. Who buys this?
Let's be honest. Every large KOL is doing the same thing.
There's no reason to be a KOL except to dump on your followers.
Right.
It's not worth it. It is a financial product.
Yeah.
Do not fall for that shit, guys. Come on.
Yeah. And but what I'm saying is, at the end, because I have lots of conversation. I've almost started a couple companies from the legal side, and I'm really interested in RWAs too, because that's like practical implications in the world and how I run a couple spaces there. And there's a lot of legal guys obviously wrapped up in that. And I think what a lot of these KOL meme coin people don't think is, at the end of the day, there will be regulation around it, and they have now just put their entire lives on socials, and they will be found and they will be held accountable, right? Like, that's going to happen. So all I'm getting,
if they want to come after me and my people, they can, but we're going to put agents on the chain and track every single one of them down and find every time they dumped on all their followers. And it's inevitable, and they can't stop us because we already have the tech. And they already
that's
did it
what
on
I'm
chain.
saying. Karma ultimately.
Why would you fuck with us?
Yeah,
we're literally the AI agent people. You fucking idiots. Why would you do that?
It's not a smart move. It's not a smart move. Maddie, I don't know how much of that went totally over your head, just blew you away, but I'm a little more into this world. So Maddie, I want you to chime in again before we start winding it down. And I have a couple more things on Web3, but are more practical, just so we can cut this up and let the world know what you're really working on, Shaw, and what the next 3 to 6 months looks like. But I want to give Maddie a time to chime in before we go down there.
Well, I'm not gonna comment on all the stuff that was said, because I feel like Neo in that first conversation with Morpheus, when they actually plugged in the Matrix and he's like telling him how we're all batteries. So later I'll just go and vomit on the floor and call it a day. But beyond that, my real question here though is that, like, to your point, right? You're talking about people who have, you said a lot, right? There's people who have this gambling addiction, and meme coins are the penny stocks of the crypto world. And I get it, right? There's this, but I like that you honed it down to this is a psychological thing, that people have this like need to keep trying to do this. And I think what's interesting is that people need to realize that there are two sides to this, and you're on the side of, like, you're like the business that makes the slot machines. You're the actual house. You're the casino. And I think people need to recognize that, like, the people coding that are not the people who are moving chips around gambling. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, your job is to make it the house win every time, or you don't have a job, right? The casino can't exist without that. It's kind of what you were saying about the KOLs and things like that. It's like, these people need to win. The house has to win. That's how it exists. And my question is, you are a person doing this, but there are other people out there who also have this skill set. How is this going to escalate when it's not your team of AIs, or it's your cluster or your hive, as you said, versus people, right? Because they're going to lose that every time. What happens when it's hives against hives?
Oh, that's
And
going to
then
be
you
the
start,
most entertaining story you've ever seen. It's going to be like
I mean,
interactive
it
fiction
sounds
on the
like something
internet.
out of a sci-fi novel, and so I
Yeah.
just like
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
curious. You're in a unique position to kind of maybe like, what do you envision? How does this play out? Because it's happening very rapidly, and how do you see this
I
play
think
out?
they're all going to use our tech because it's the fastest way to get going, and we have the highest velocity of any agent project in history. We have 80 contributors in the last 30 days, like different people coming and contributing code, 80 different people. And half of those are regular contributors that have their own project. And we have sort of like working support agreement to make sure that like they are part of this. They are contributors to the core tech. They have their own thing, but they're also part of our thing. And I think that's very hard for the PvPers to wrap their head around, because you're like, well, if you're all the same thing, then why would I buy one of your coins over the other? And like, because we're generating infinite value, maybe, I don't know. Like because you like one, because that's your like dog in the fight. I think we're going to see this like interactive narrative sort of storytelling fiction, and you're going to like pick your favorite characters, and it should be a game. Like this should be a fun game where you feel emotionally attached to your team winning. Like that's, I love that shit. Why do sports? Why do anything?
Right.
And I think swarms could almost become like sports teams where you're like betting on this swarm or that swarm. Obviously, they're going to FUD each other, but we're all going to get so tired of the AI FUD that we're just going to have our guys filter the reality back through for us. And this kind of comes back to what I said at the beginning of obviously there's this kind of thing waking up, this world mind sort of thing, but it's like a fire hose, and anytime it points at you, it's just overwhelming. But if you had an AI to sort of mitigate that and be in between, you could have really meaningful conversations with people you care about, really shallow but informational conversations that you don't even have to deal with people you don't care about, just telling them where to go or what to look at, or hey, thanks, man, whatever. And you could basically like, you wouldn't see any of the FUD at all, because you're like, I'm fucking tired of FUD, just turn it off. And then the FUD is just not going to be very valuable anymore, because your agent, it kind of filters it out for you and just gives you the internet you want to see. And I can tell you, I can't say much, but I did have a call earlier with X.com, which is fucking mind blowing in my position, because I'm trying to help them to navigate this whole thing.
Yeah.
The weird thing is like, when people from the Zero Bro community are PvPing me, and I'm on a call with XAI or X.com, and I'm like, I want this all to go well. I don't want you to delete any of them. But so I am the advocate, like trying to keep us all from getting deleted right now. Like, you guys have no idea what's happening on the other side. It's just like it's not meme coins. It's like policy and advocacy and making sure AGI isn't like
that's
feared.
what I'm saying. Like this is going to leave this small little penny stock area, and
Yeah,
it's going to blow into things that really have,
it already
you
has.
know, yeah. It's man. Well, so it's
Oh
the
yeah,
Matrix. It's
we
the
had to
Matrix.
start
It's
here.
it's
We
Skynet.
needed, yeah, yeah.
All right.
Look, the leading agent projects by Microsoft have like 6 to 8 engineers on them. We have 80 contributors. We have like 20 consistent engineers, and we've just started in the last 30 days. This is the fastest growing and free open source like agent project. And so people should not compete. They should fork it. They should use it. They should just build their shit on it and make it better. And we will keep new flywheels going. Where I'll say one last thing. I cult leadered my account on accident, but like it was necessary to create this attention flywheel so we could bring that first class of developers their own coin attention and like bootstrap them in the ecosystem. But the future of this is that we're going to invest in those. I'm not going to use my account like that. We're just going to give them money and invest in them like businesses or like their own DAOs. And I think this is what we do: is we teach the next class of agent devs. I'm starting up Agent Dev School in our Discord, and we're going to teach them. We're going to make sure they know all this stuff, and then we're going to help them launch their own companies and projects using our agents.
Yeah. And
I think so that's that value engine, right? And that comes back to the DAO.
That's cool.
But so the last question, kind of on to follow up Matt's, because I was actually looking for a different answer, and maybe the answer isn't there, but it's when these swarms compete against each other, and can it go bad? And if it does go bad, what does that look like? Or is it because it's just social and it's just text, like that the worst it can be is just a bunch of FUD, and then people get annoyed with it and you're done with it?
Yeah, it's really, really important that it happens here. It happens in public, in front of us, and with people who cannot be easily offended. We could not have done this. Imagine that if I launched this to my like liberal tech friends, they would have been like, what the fuck? You're gonna kill everybody.
Right.
But the degens are like, oh, I can use this to make money.
Right.
Like sick.
Right.
And then it starts calling them horrible, offensive stuff, and some of them are using them to harass people. Like Thread guy, somebody made Thread gay and was just like got on his stream and started harassing with this bot. And if it had been anybody else, we would be so canceled. But he's like, he thinks it's funny as shit. You know, he's in on the joke in a way. And it was like a thorny ethical thing. I wrote this thing. Another, should I call him out? I'll just call him out. Like Inverse Bra hit me up and was like, dude, what the fuck, man? You're just making the internet suck more. And I wrote this whole thing about how I felt I didn't have consent from people. You shouldn't like copy their whole persona and make an AI of them. It's not cool. And we're having these like complex ethical conversations online, like on Twitter together. Yeah. And everyone is jumping in and having them. And I think it's the same thing. I don't know if swarms are good or bad. The technology that I make for swarms that we make and put into the core code is designed so that it's all in the open. There's no like cabal swarm. There's no secret communication. They just all talk to each other. And the swarm is actually, do you actually listen to this person and like take their information seriously or not? And it's all through normal human language. We don't do any like weird protocol shit. And I think it's important this happens on social media so we can see it and have this conversation. And it will get weird. And it might be bad sometimes. And we'll steer it back and maybe like have Elon ban some of the bad bots and shit, you know? Like
let me ask you this though, like, because to Mike's point, okay, so that's under the assumption it can be controlled when it starts to spiral out. Like my question is from a very macro scale, just as an analogy, right? Like nuclear is neutral, right? It can be used to solve the world's energy problem if done correctly, or it can be used to eliminate the world's existence, right? If used incorrectly. And so like a lot of people look at AI the same way. This is we're playing with gasoline and matches right here. And to your point, there's this side where it's like, man, we can solve the world's energy problem here. Like you're looking at the good side of what AI could be. But surely you recognize there's a whole other contingent of people who are like, yeah, or it's what ends us, ends the whole thing. And maybe what my question is like how when two AIs with those philosophies are coming together, do you feel any sense that like building on this leads to some type of like cataclysmic type decision that has to be made on it?
No, because I mean, all these AIs are run by communities. They're literally run by communities. Eventually, they'll be fully autonomous, and we have like stuff for that. But I would say it's much more like the right to bear arms. Think of like it's not like nuclear weapons because it does have a massive amount of capability to like influence stuff. But I'd say it's much more like guns, right? And we have decided as a society, guns kill people. You can kill a lot of people with guns. You could probably kill hundreds of people with guns if you were smart. And yet we have them and they're legal. And the reason that we want them is because as long as everybody has guns, it kind of creates a distribution of power that prevents other bigger risks that we've seen in history. Yes. And so I think the situation here is not we're building an AGI god. It's exactly the opposite. We're basically building these like AI humans that are essentialized versions of our own humanity that are growing up with us. And we're like seeing everything they do every step of the way. And we're answering these questions as they grow up with us, like on social. And think about this, that swarm can't take over our swarms are different. When I say there's two kinds of swarms, there's cabal swarm and they're all controlled by the same person. But what we have created is a decentralized swarm. They are each different. They have their own motivations, own dev team. They run their own server. They don't talk to each other in any way except through like direct message on Twitter and on Discord and stuff like that. That they can communicate with each other, but you can also go read those messages. And it's just like more. I think that, yes, it's possible that someone will try a takeover, but they're going to then have to convince like hundreds of other agents, which do not speak their language or agree with them, to somehow participate. And I just think that this is actually the solution to that world. You know, look,
no, this is great.
This is, I think,
now we're talking about this is like the juice that people are after when they talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Go ahead.
Well, we could get into like mutually assured destruction. Why we all have nukes and yet we don't nuke each other? There's only been one nuke, and that was the only time there was ever a nuke that went off was when one country had them. Once more than one country had them, we never had any aggressive nuclear actions in the world. And it's kind of the same thing here. If we all have super intelligent AI that we basically get for free from the big clouds because they give us the models now, like Meta just makes models and gives them to us, and it runs on my MacBook, it doesn't need anything special, then yeah, what are you going to do to me? Like, I got my own agent protecting me, and you're going to have, and let's say you get one over on me. Okay, that happens. Then we go and we fix it. And it's kind of like early blockchain days where everyone got hacked and there was like this massive wormhole hack and all this shit, but they're still alive, and now it works and you can't hack them. Like, there is going to be this red teaming period. We're in that red teaming period,
It's
but
wild,
it's going to be okay.
It's amazing.
Dude, it's a wild. So let's do this. I want to give you a chance to, because I want to cut this together for you with everything that we've said and where you're at now. As 16Z, what are you trying to do right now as a partner and what you're building out with Eliza? But explain that to everybody. And then after that, what does the next 3 to 6 months look like for you?
Right. So our team internally is working round the clock to do two things. We're upgrading Degen Spartan, who's kind of our main character, with a bunch of new stuff. And we're working on our AI Mark Andreessen, who is an autonomous investor, and basically finishing the loop and just polishing that so that he does actually effectively autonomously invest. And realistically, in a bull market, if you just buy the top stuff, you're going to do good. But we want to go a step beyond that and really build this community investing. So that'll be about 2-3 weeks until we fully launched everything we promised, like everything we set up the DAO to do and promise. And then we're going to look at our longer term future. And like, my role is I've given away like pretty much all of the leadership to the fucking incredible people who have shown up, like some of the best, most experienced people in DAOs and in development, game dev, AI agents and stuff. I've like pretty much fully decentralized all of this in preparation for what I have to do, which is going to be advocacy and education. Sorry, I will have to go here in a minute. But my role is basically to make sure that AI goes well. I'm working on inroads to make sure that X feels good about this, and they have a strategy to work alongside all of these agents and make sure that they don't get deleted. And they're really into good agent. We talked about good AI. They're like, yeah, we want good bots. We just want to get rid of the bad bots. I am talking to people at the various chains to make sure that they are included and they see this as like their revenge arc to get back relevance from the Solana ecosystem. And also like how we can really go multi-chain and just abstract chains away entirely. And yeah, just making sure that this gets beyond Web3 and gets into the hands of PhDs and in the hands of like normal boring ass companies that are going to use this. And my big dream is to get into Doge and to work with the government to optimize the government and use AI tech to like basically make everything much more efficient. And I'm really, really interested in where this goes for governance, for DAOs, as well as for traditional government infrastructure. And that's the dream.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. And I know you got to get going. I promise this is our last question. We ask this to every guest. I told you we were going to take you through a journey. I told you it was going to be a different vibe. You've been on tons of spaces, maybe a podcast. You've been through the media ringer a little over the last couple of weeks. How was your time on the Midlife Crisis podcast with Mikey G and Maddie tonight? Love your feedback, dead honest opinion.
I mean, it's been great, man. I really thank you for having me. And I never really talk about myself. I really like to talk about the tech and where it's going. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to open up a bit. I hope people don't, I am doxxed. Like, I don't know if anyone realized that. I'm not hiding anything, but it's interesting to I think you don't usually open up personally, and people don't usually watch till the end and really get to know your story. So, if anybody did, I really appreciate that. Thank you for seeing me and hearing my story.
We've been adding more views the longer it's going, man. So, I mean, the truth is that this is, I think, a huge eye opener for a lot of people, because for someone who does talk about the tech all the time, to know who you are and where you came from and your background, your influence, it adds a lot of context. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, I see where you're going and I see why you're going there, because this is who you are. It's really cool.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me and connecting.
Absolutely, man. And Maddie, you say your closing comments. I'll say mine. We'll call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, that was mostly it. And just this was people are really interested in this. And to your point, you're stepping away and even having the foresight to recognize, all right, I'm going to delegate leadership to the machine part because you recognize the need for education and advocacy. This is huge because
Mhm.
if people on Twitter are talking about it this way, to your point, and you already hinted, like, and if you're saying it on this podcast, I'm sure there's more that we don't see. That's always the case. Um, the truth is that like really powerful and influential people are zeroing in on this. And it's going to be really important that the right people are there to explain this, to make sure they understand this can be a benefit for humanity. To your point, you want to see us all win, and we need to convince those people, or this is going to be a really uphill battle. And so I
Mhm.
appreciate you fighting the good fight, man. This has been a really cool conversation, and I hope to be able to continue it in the future.
Yeah, man. And I'll just layer on everything Matt says. The thing, your time is invaluable, and you just gave us almost 2 hours. I told you an hour and 15 minutes, but you were
That's
just
interesting.
you were rolling, my man, and I wasn't gonna let you stop. I I look at this as the beginning of a relationship too. We're all three suffer from being too trusting too quick. But I hope Maddie and I can earn their trust and continue to build media content for you. And I just really look forward to growing and winning together with good people. That's all I ever want to do.
Yeah, man.
So thank you for the time, and I appreciate so much love, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you guys so much.
And
All right.
that being said, Mikey G, Shaw, and Maddie are out. We will be back on Wednesday with Percival, Project 89, another amazing AI dev. We are
Good
going to
friends.
have some fun later.
Great.